Salad and Saw Stargate. It is directed by Roland Emmerich, written by Roland Emmerich and Dean Devon. And if you haven't seen this movie, I will spoil it for you. This is requested by a Patreon. If you'd like to fast track a movie review, you can do that at patreon.com/ASEPresents on with the review. This movie starts and we're following an ancient civilization uncovering a Stargate. And it's weird, right? They just have a Stargate and it's just in the desert, and I'm like, what is this weird circle thing? Is this some sort of portal to a world? Is this some sort of time travel machine? I'm thinking that while they're putting the Stargate vertical as they find it. Weird. Why are they having it vertical and then going to leave it in the dirt, dude? Why? And it's not until many years later then we have the government, they found it, and then they're opening the Stargate, and then they do open the Stargate, and then a bunch of people go through the Stargate, and what is in the Stargate? It's actually desert land, and also in this desert land, there seems to be life there. There's a whole civilization in desert land. Immediately I'm like, okay, interesting. Where did they just transport to? All of these people speak different languages. It doesn't seem at all Earth-like at all, and also this is not Earth at all. There's some weird dudes, such as, I can only describe these creatures as a combination of a tauntaun and an elephant. Like a really hairy elephant tauntaun mixture. I like seeing them try to communicate with each other because they don't speak any of the same language. So at first, communication is hard to do, and what's interesting is that we have these natives to this planet. They're now bowing down. There's this one specific scientist dude with glasses, and he like really curly hair, and he has a medallion with a little emblem of Ra, the Egyptian god, on them. And they're just bowing down. They're like, "Ooh, yeah, we're gonna go bow down." And that's weird. That's strange. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And then we have a closer look at the civilization and more closer looks at these people who are speaking English and the people who are speaking not English, and they're talking. And it's also revealed that they're humans who were transported from Earth by Ra himself, because this alien dude didn't want to die. So he's like, I'm going to ask Ra for help. And then Ra gave him immortality, and now he's Ra. He gave him immortality because he is Ra. He like took his body. Oof. You don't want to die that much, so you let a god inhabit your body? What? Dude, not good decision making on that guy's part. But this guy is like, alright, I see a couple of people here. I'm going to rule over them. And I'm going to take some of these guys to a desert planet. I'm going to take a bunch of them to a desert planet. A whole bunch of them. And then there's going to be a rebellion that forces me to close the Stargate. And then I now have a bunch of people who serve me. And because I don't want a rebellion on my hands, I'm going to make sure that they are not allowed to read or write. And so when we have new people come in and they start reading and writing all over the place, that's a problem. That's a big old problem. It actually surprises me that their communications don't get violent, really. Except for, like, maybe the first one. Like, oh, wow, there's some guys drawing a gun on me. They're not even violent then! They're not violent towards newcomers, which is interesting. And then, they don't have any ounce of violence when there could be a possibility of mixed communication. Yeah, you guys don't speak the same language. You guys are doing hand signals, which makes sense. This obviously means no, get away from me. Easy to read. But like other symbols trying to describe like, hey, have you seen this guy? I don't know what happened to this guy. Yeah, he had glasses and he had like long hair, and we got these guys imitating the gesture, and I'm like, okay. They just think they're doing something weird and funky. And then at some point, they realize what you're talking about, but you didn't change the way in which you spoke to them. There's some minor things like that in this movie. I'm like, wait, the communication, I feel like there's a lot of leaps in logic in how the communication would function. There needs to be a lot more hand signals going on. There's not nearly enough hand signals. Also, it's interesting, so now we have Ra, he's the big bad guy. He's the big bad dude. He's keeping all these guys enslaved. But luckily, these newcomers, they got guns. And they got a lot of guns. And they're able to arm the natives with guns. And then the natives go, pow, we're gonna do it rebel. I'm gonna go rebel. Pow. And so they incite a rebellion. And they eventually overthrow Ra. And they now can live in prosperity. And it's nice and beautiful. And they go back, and the Stargate is there. What a fulfilling story. Alright, so watching this, I'm like, okay, this is the other star of the movies that I've heard about. I mean, I've only heard about this recently. I've heard about Star Trek and Star Wars growing up my entire life. And this movie I'm just learning about recently. Why is that? And then I'm watching, and I'm like, yeah, this is a better version of, like, the Scorpion King. Or like The Mummy Returns, something like that. It's just a better Egyptian movie. As I like to call these types of movies, which are so fundamentally based in Egyptian culture. Egyptian movies. And I've seen a lot of them. And I've seen a lot of them be the same type of movie. And at this point, I'm like bored of this type of movie. But Stargate does add a little bit of an interesting twist. There's a little bit of a sci-fi element there, and we have modernity clashing with the past. I like that aspect, but everything else is just so much desert. That's whenever they're able to excel in color, which is to say, not the scenes where there's a bunch of desert. Desert's the same color, and it's a lack of color. There's no color within this desert, except for within this beautiful pyramid. He's encountering Ra, and it's beautiful. This palace is beautiful. Everything else, it's just whatever, I guess. And it's visually bland at certain points. I do like the story method of delivering what happened here. Like the little wall in the text, and there's like a native telling him, hey, here's what this means. And then he's able to translate and read it, and it explains what happened in the past and why everyone's like this right now. And I liked that part a lot. I generally enjoyed this movie, but it's nothing I'm thinking about after watching it, except for the Stargate. The Stargate Circle is so weird. It's weird. Am I a fan of this movie? I mean, I like it. I wouldn't want to watch it again. I can see why no one has mentioned Stargate to me before recent, and why everyone talks and raves about Star Wars and Star Trek. It's because these two franchises are infinitely better. Well, not infinitely. They're a degree better than Stargate. But Stargate is pretty alright, but it definitely does blend with my memory of other movies similar to this, because Egyptian movies, Egyptian style movies, as I like to call them, they're pretty much just like the same every time. Oh, we are in Egypt. We gotta go into the Egypt tombs. We gotta go either save a civilization, save a chick, or steal a thing. Then we gotta get out of there. That's the type of movies that's in Egypt, it seems. The acting was alright. Nothing too notable, but the world building, I do enjoy the world building a lot, and I like the different types of like people within the civilization, which I appreciate. So I gotta give this movie's like a solid 7 out of 10. If you like this review, watch another one. The platform really likes it. If you want to fast track a movie review, you can do that for $20. Redeem us at patreon.com/ASEPresents. And if you'd like to help support the daily grindiness of all them daily movies, go to this link tree. Find the way you can help support the daily grind of all them daily movies. And until next time, mint salad sauce. See you later, my sad croutons and bacon bits. Alright, I'm gonna go walk to Stargate now. Bye-bye.